Hello everyone and welcome to the RA2 channel. If you're not familiar with me, my name's Eric and I run the Retail Archaeology channel, and this is my second channel where I like to just do goofy videos that don't really make sense on the main channel, usually a little bit lower production quality as well. For this video I wanted to take a look at a digital camera. Now if you're familiar with the Retail Archaeology channel or this channel, I'm sure you know that I really like to mess around with older digital cameras. Things like this Sony Mavica, which I have a few of these Mavicas, but these are floppy disk cameras, so they save the pictures on a 3.5-inch floppy disk. I really like playing around with this one. This is one of my favorites. Another one I have is this old America Online Digicam, which this is a terrible camera. It's very bare bones, no screen on the back or anything, but it is a digital camera. And then I also like things like this Game Boy camera, and this is kind of what prompted this video. So this is a Game Boy camera, which I'm not sure when these came out exactly. I'll put the year on the screen, but these came out right around the same time as the different color Game Boys came out, the Game Boy Play It Loud series. And these were little digital cameras that you could plug into the cartridge port on your Game Boy and take pictures with. Let me show you how that worked. This is one of the Play It Loud Game Boys. So you just put the cartridge in, and there, that's what it looks like. And you have a little digital camera there, which you can swivel around. You can point it out too. I'll turn it on. But they also sold with this a Game Boy printer that plugged into the Game Boy and lets you print the pictures off that you took. It was a thermal printer, so they were black and white. And I'll turn this down just a little bit. Which one of these is volume? I forget. This one. They sold a printer, like I said, that went with this, and it was a thermal printer. And as you can imagine, the pictures this took were very low resolution. I'll show you a couple examples here. But if we go over to view, you can see some old pictures that I took with this. And by the way, the program, the game itself, I guess you could call it, on this is very bizarre, I'm sure, as you can see here. It's kind of surreal, actually, but I'm going to go to album. And these are some of the pictures I took. For example, this is a payphone that I took a picture of. I don't know how well that's coming across. As you can see, it's very low resolution, but you could print them out on thermal paper that were actually stickers, which was kind of cool. Now, that's the only way to get the pictures off of this camera. Normally, I mean, you could hook this up to a Super Game Boy and then hook that to an AV capture device, do things like that. But the only intended way to get pictures off of this was with the Game Boy printer, and unfortunately the printer paper for that isn't really available anymore, and the stuff that is around is very, very old, and it just doesn't really work anymore. And so I wanted to look anyways and see if there was any, like, maybe somebody made new paper for the Game Boy printer, which I didn't think I was going to find any. But what I did stumble across is the camera we're actually really going to take a look at. So let me turn this off and get it out of the way. I found this on Amazon, and this is a toy digital camera. It really is. You can see it says like 3+ on there, and I forget what I paid exactly for this, but it wasn't expensive. And you can see here on the side it says it does video capture, which it takes video. Photo capture, it takes pictures. Print, which is what made me interested in this. Game, there is games on here. And then expandable memory, meaning it takes an SD card. But what you get with this is a camera and some paper that comes with it. Now, if you look for things like this on Amazon, you'll find lots of different ones. I bought the one that looked the least like a toy, although it does still look like a toy. But what you got was the camera, and it came with 3 rolls of this thermal paper, which I've got the second roll in the camera now. I've already burned through a roll playing with this thing. Let me get it out of the box and get the box out of the way. But this is what the camera looks like, and it kind of looks like a little Polaroid camera, which is kind of how it works. But how this works is it is a thermal printer, very similar to how the Game Boy printer worked. It just uses thermal paper. It's a standard receipt size, and like I said, it came with 3 rolls, which I've taken tons of pictures with this. And you have the option to not print the pictures right when you take them. You can just have it save the pictures to the SD card, and you can then print the pictures later if you want, or you can copy the pictures off the SD card and do various things. But as you can see, it is still very much a toy. Let me turn it on, it'll become really apparent that it's a toy. Yeah, there we go. Yes, very much a toy, but as you can see, you've got camera, video. Let me get this closer to the screen here. There's camera, video, music. So this will play MP3s. Playback, which is viewing the pictures and video that you took. Games and settings. Settings, real quick, is... I keep thinking that... I'm so used to touchscreens. Not a touchscreen. Got to use the icon, the arrow keys here. And then there's an OK button, which also acts as your shutter button or start stop when you're taking video. And then there's a print button there as well. We'll get back to that in a second. This is future Eric just breaking in for a moment while editing. I'm about to spend a large amount of time going through the menus and settings on this camera, so if you're not interested in that, you can skip to the time code that I've posted on the screen there to see me actually use the camera. And now back to your regularly scheduled YouTube video. But let's go to settings. And here you can change the language. Tracking label, which really is just the camera's like information, like what it, model number and stuff. Date stamp, this is where you can turn off and on date stamp on pictures. I've found though that only works for pictures. Even if date stamp is turned off here, it still puts a date stamp on the video, which is kind of annoying. Version, which is just software information. Setting it, you can reset it back to factory default. Frequency, that's 50 or 60 hertz, the video, so NTSC or PAL, I guess. Cyclic record, I forget what that is exactly. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if I played with that. Whoops, going the wrong way. Screensavers, which, is there any screensavers? I forget. Oh, I think it's just, it goes blank after a certain amount of time unused. Auto power off is kind of the same thing. You can format your SD card. Camera resolution. So right now I have it set to 12 megapixels, but it can be set as low as 3 megapixels. Like I said, I've got it set to 12. Its highest setting, which we'll see the pictures it takes. That's another reason I kind of like this thing, not just the printing, but the way the pictures actually come out. Going the wrong way. Video resolution, so 1080p or 720p. Spoiler, it looks like garbage. The video, regardless of what you pick, and we'll see that. And then volume, which, is that volume for the, I guess for the interface? Because I don't think that affects when it plays music. Set the date and time, and then printer density, that's how hot the printer element gets. I have it set to high. That seems to generate the best pictures, the best prints. And we're back to language again, so that's cancel. Before we look at the camera, we'll just look at a few of the other things. The music is hilarious that this plays music. So all you have to do is put MP3s on the SD card, and then you can play some vaporwave off your camera. Get the speaker closer to the... So yes, this camera plays vaporwave. That's fantastic. Whoops, what did I do there? Oh, that was, I guess, play pause. So yeah, I just put some music on here. So this is one of the YouTube music library songs. You might recognize that for some of my thrifting videos. So yeah, that's the music player. And then games. We'll take a look at that real quick. So there's Snake. This is, you know, go around the screen, eat the apples, I think is what it is in this game, and the snake grows a little bit longer. It's very basic. It doesn't even seem to really keep score, and it moves really slow. And this was the first game that I fired up on here, and I was disappointed pretty quickly. I thought all the games were going to move this slow, but they don't. But that makes it similar to the Game Boy camera as well, as it can play games. Then, yeah, when you die, it's just game over and back to the screen. Here's a Breakout clone. Whoops. It's pretty hard to play with, and I'm trying to play it through a viewfinder. but it's not great, but it works, and it moves at a decent speed. Whoa. I beat a couple of levels the first time I played this, but it actually does keep a score, so this is more of a filled out game. Cancel. Yes. Oops, wrong way. There's Tetris, so another kind of nod to the Game Boy, I guess. There's Tetris on here, although it's a terrible version of Tetris. You can't just hold down to make it. You have to like repeatedly push down. Up spins the pieces, but it works. And then there's I don't know what you call this game. I don't know if it was called Boxel originally. This is kind of an example level, but it's the one where you move the pieces into the spaces they need to go into. Whoops, I don't know if I should have done that, but yeah. This is actually another, I'm not going to say it's a good game, but it's a more thought out. I wish it like kept time or kept a score or something. And then here is just a maze. This is lame. And then we're back to Snake. Whoops, I didn't want to go into Snake. Okay, let's go to playback so we can see some of the pictures and stuff I've taken, which we'll view them in different forms, the pictures I took. But yep, here's one that I took in the grocery store. And even though this is set to 12 megapixels, seems like it's a pretty low res camera. This seems like a digital camera from the same era as a lot of my older digital cameras, like my AOL Digicam or my Mavicas. It does take better pictures than this, but not by much. Yeah, let's go through. That's one I took of a picture that I have hanging on my wall. There's also like, no, don't do that. Cancel. Oh, I can show you those when we're in the picture mode, but there's different frames and things you can pick from as well. But yeah, these are some I took at the grocery store, and I like the low resolution pictures that this takes. It's very much similar to my other older digital cameras. But I've taken a lot of pictures with this. This was, like I said, a grocery store. This is Superstition Spring Center. I took it to the mall, of course. The lens, as you can see, is one of those, like, pinhole lenses. So the slightest movement at all will make your pictures blurry. You have to, like, kind of hold your breath, count to 3, and push the shutter button to take a decent picture. Otherwise, you wind up with something pretty blurry. But yeah, these are some that I took inside Dillard's. And here's, like I said, the cool part about this. The whole reason that I bought this, this is when you're viewing pictures that you've already taken. If I push the print button, there we go. Wait, why is it not printing? Oh, let's try it again. There it goes. And it just tears off. And there is our black and white thermal printer image it takes. And like I mentioned, I already burned through a roll of this because I've already taken a lot of pictures with this thing. So these are just some of the ones I printed out. This is the Buckhorn Baths. It's kind of a landmark. That's Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall. That's also Scottsdale Fashion Square, but I forget which anchor I took these in. But this was when I was filming footage for the Forever 21 video that's on the main channel. I like that one. Yeah, see, Forever 21. So I love the low resolution feel, the low res feel of these. This is a lot higher of a print resolution than what the Game Boy camera would have done. Obviously the pictures were lower resolution too, but it was still a cool thing. And like I said, you really can't get the paper for it, at least paper that works decent. But this is basically a brand new like upgraded Game Boy camera and Game Boy printer all in one, and it does technically have games, so I think that kind of ties in. And this is back to Superstition Springs. That's the Sparrow. What I also did, oh, those are my Littlefoot. Is that Littlefoot and Petrie, little Pizza Hut puppets that I have. That's this picture I like in particular. I like the thermal printed version of this picture, and also just the picture itself, which we'll see in a little bit. This is the one that I printed off. That's the C3PO from the picture I have. So let me get back to the camera for a second. I can show you how that works. I'm gonna back out, go to camera. So this is just normal mode. Right now, if that printer icon's there, that means if I click OK, it's going to take a picture, save the picture to the SD card, and then it will also instantly print it out. If I want to turn instant printing off, I just push the printer button up here. The icon's gone. Now it'll just take a picture when I take a picture. But there are some options here. If I start scrolling up and down, there's some color filters. Very basic color filters. Some like mirror effects. Bug eye effects. Oh, that's kind of a... Whoa. And then there's frames that you can use when you take the picture, and these will be part of the... So that's the $100 bill one. There's some Halloween ones, just a lot, very basic ones. There's a maze that you can print out. So you could just print this out and you have a maze. I thought that was very bizarre. There's also a tic-tac-toe game you could print out. So like I guess if you're at a restaurant and your kids are at a restaurant, you could just turn the print back on. Actually, let's print a different one because there's a few other ones. So there's the tic-tac-toe exo chess game. Okay. And then there's some coloring sheets that you can print out as well, which is bizarre because it's very tiny. There's some more frames. There's some headphones you can stick on people, a bow, cat face. But let me go back to one of those coloring sheets just so you can get an idea of like how silly of an idea. I mean, I guess it's neat. Oh, here, we'll do the dinosaurs. Okay, there it goes. But yeah, you can print off, I guess, coloring sheets. Just wasted some paper there. And then something else I want to show too is that it does tear pretty cleanly, but you get that, you know, the ridges or whatever. But as long as you tear it off good, you could take scissors and, like, you know, obviously trim the edges and it would look better. Let's go back. Video. So you can play back. Oh, no, that's in the playback mode. So this is video. We'll get back to that in a second because I actually took this to the mall and filmed some footage. Playback. See if I can find some video on here. Okay, AVI. So that's kind of a pain. It does take the videos in AVI format. So for example, if I try to play these videos on my phone, like just copy them over my phone, it won't play. I have to use like, not at least by default, I have to use like VLC Media Player to play these. But they do go into my editing software fine. So let's take a break from looking at this camera and let's actually take a look at the visit to the mall that I did with this camera. And I filmed some footage and took a lot of pictures also. So we'll take a look at those and you can actually see what the pictures look like, not just on this tiny screen. So this trip was on a Saturday afternoon to Superstition Spring Center, and the first thing I did when I got to the mall was grab some lunch, and most of the time when I eat lunch at this mall, I grab a slice of pizza from Sparrow. The mall seemed like a great place to check this camera out, and of course I started with my slice of pizza just to check and make sure the printer was working. Then I started walking around the mall. Now this footage is from my GoPro that I usually use when I'm filming places like this. I wanted to give everyone an idea of what this mall looks like normally through a halfway decent camera, but in a second here you'll see it switch to the toy camera. And this is the footage from the toy camera. And you can see the time and date stamp down there in the bottom. I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, you can't turn that off. At least I couldn't find a way to turn it off. But this footage is pretty terrible. It's very shaky, and I'm trying my best to keep the camera steady. But what I find interesting is, as shaky as the footage is, this kind of almost looks like VHS footage. It's the wrong aspect ratio for VHS footage, but this is what I imagine it would look like if you took a camera into the mall in the early 2000s and tried to film it. There is a longer walkthrough video on this channel that I filmed with my GoPro that's much steadier than this. I could see this maybe possibly giving some people motion sickness with as jittery as it is. This is from inside the JCPenney located at this mall, and I think it's pretty obvious I won't be switching to this camera to film videos for my main channel. But it is kind of almost like a time machine. This is what JCPenney looked like in the early 2000s, at least how I remember it. I left the ambient audio from the camera in here as well, just so you can hear how atrocious the microphone is. Okay, let's head back into the mall now. Here's the GameStop. I had to make sure and get some footage of that. And this end of the mall is the more dead side of the mall. This one is kind of interesting. Half of the mall seems to be very lively and doing well, and the other half of the mall has very strong dead mall vibes now. This almost looks like found footage. But you can see there's a lot of empty storefronts down this way now. The GameStop's one of the last remaining things down here that's still open. It really is unfortunate how shaky this camera is. It really does pick up any little movement, any slight twitch. Even your breathing seems to be picked up in the camera. The movement of your chest going up and down while you're holding the camera. I tried to get a lot of the same shots that I would do when I'm filming a mall, and they really just don't translate well to this camera. It is really hard to get anything that looks halfway decent out of this. I also took a quick trip into the Dillards with the camera just to see if filming a department store with this camera made it feel even more like a liminal department store. I really wish I would have got some footage of the Macy's that was closing with this camera. Alright, let's go ahead and head out of the mall now. I think that's enough video from this camera. I probably could get better with this camera with practice, but I was really more interested in its ability to take pictures and then print them out. So let's take a look at a early 2000s style montage of some of the pictures that I took. So as you can see, the video quality is hot garbage. It's pretty low fidelity. I kind of like the footage, but it is very shaky. And again, I was trying my best not to make the footage shaky, but this kind of lens on a digital camera, these cheap like pinhole lenses just are terrible. They, like when you try and take a still image, you have to almost take it like a sniper. Like I said, hold your breath, count to 3, pull the not pull the trigger, push the shutter button. It's difficult, but you can get decent images out of it, and they are images that I enjoy because, like I said, they, even though it's a new camera, they still have that like retro digital camera patina to them that I really enjoy. Before we wrap this up, though, I do also want to show one last thing. I also have a early 2000s photo printer that sometimes I actually print the pictures out that I take on some of these old digital cameras, like the Mavica, for example. I like to print them out on a somewhat period accurate printer for when the camera came out. So these are actually some of the photos that I printed of the pictures that I took, and these are actually kind of great. I like the way that these came out on photo paper. It looks like these pictures were taken 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, but it was a brand new camera just printed on a very old photo printer. These I took when the Macy's was closing. This is the Toys R Us section. And this is actually one of my favorite pictures that I've taken with this camera. I really enjoy this one, this shot with the Dillards in the background and the mall directory. Again, it's a little blurry, but that's what pictures look like taken with old cameras, although it's not an old camera, it's a new one. It just behaves like an old camera, which is kind of neat. But yeah, I think that's where we'll wrap up whatever this video was, a video on old cameras. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And if you haven't watched my main channel, the Retail Archaeology channel, go ahead and check that one out as well. And let me know if you'd like to see more videos on actual, like I said, this is a new camera, but I am planning on doing a video, on this guy, because this is a terrible camera, but it's still kind of fun to play with. And I did actually, this was featured in one of the Retail Archaeology videos, but I want to dig deeper into something because I actually have the box and everything for this camera, so I just thought it would be interesting to take a closer look at. But yeah, thanks for checking out this video, and I'll see you next time.